Oh boy, we are setting up for a lot of entertainment. Today we've got to cover drama at DOGE. More drama. I thought Vivek leaving was enough drama. No, we have yet another departure. We also have Donald Trump finally signing that executive order on cryptocurrencies. What does it mean? What does it imply? We'll talk about it. We'll talk about the Federal Reserve and Donald Trump's potential influence over it to lower interest rates and what he says about Jerome Powell and the Fed. We'll talk interest rates. We'll talk overreach on, well, crypto regulation. We'll talk crypto fundraising. We'll talk Altman drama. That's not to be confused with $1 Million Listing and the Altman brothers, but rather Sam Altman. Yeah, more drama regarding Stargate, Oracle, what's happening with that stock and why. We'll talk retail trades, catalysts, and birthright citizenship, as well as more. On today's Meet Kevin Report, news that makes you money. All right, so let's begin. Donald Trump makes it very clear that he says, quote, "I think I know interest rates much better than they do," referring to the Fed, "and I think I know certainly much better than the one who's primarily in charge of that decision." In other words, Donald Trump is making this clear distinction that not only does he think he knows more about interest rates than all of the Federal Reserve, but especially the person at the top, Jay Powell. So this is setting up for a little bit of tension because Donald Trump was then asked, look, we know you want interest rates to come down. You said it in your Davos meeting this morning. Do you think the Federal Reserve will listen to your demands that interest rates come down? To that, he smirked and said, yeah, I do. Well, folks, I think they won't. And this is where I'm going to throw in my opinion. I think the Federal Reserve doesn't really give a flying hootie what Donald Trump thinks. Now, Donald Trump will try to fire them, but that can go one of two ways. The person who gets fired, which will end up being Jerome Powell, could just walk away, disappear, and go into retirement, or he could resign early. But I see Jerome Powell as somebody who has too much money to care and is too proud to just walk away from the job. And given that he's also got a little bit of a background with law, I would suspect that Jerome Powell might be the person to put up a fight. And he'll do it under the guise of doing what's right for America. And this will create this really interesting dispute because on one hand, you'll have Donald Trump who says, well, interest rates should be lower, so average Americans have lower interest rates. Jerome Powell will be, interest rates should be higher for longer to prevent the potential inflation that Donald Trump might himself cause, and that will be better for Americans. Now, the popular win here will, of course, go to Donald Trump. Donald Trump will win the popular win here because Donald Trump will go, interest rates need to go down. I tried firing the guy, keeping rates high. What a jerk. He's making life expensive for you. That guy's a loser. Everybody's going to agree with Donald Trump. He has the winning position. There's no way Jay Powell can win. Jay Powell's argument goes a little bit more advanced, that if they lose control of inflation, we end up with stagflation, which is worse. You get a recession and high inflation. You literally have the potential collapse of currencies. This is how Venezuela went down. This is how the Deutsche Mark went down. Worst case scenario is inflation and recession at the same time. Usually recessions are deflationary, which I personally think there's a higher likelihood of a deflationary recession. But that's, again, the topic for a totally different video. So this standoff will be really unpopular for Powell, really popular for Trump. And after all, Trump is a populist, somebody who wants to do what is popular for the people, not necessarily what economists or whomever thinks is the perfect thing to do, rather just what is popular at the time. Now, in the spirit of this, I don't really think any of this is going to go anywhere, really, for the next at least few months, because in January, the Fed's probably not going to do anything. Maybe they'll get pressure to pump up that 25% chance of a rate cut in March. And maybe this ends up becoming some drama in Q2. But is this going to be near-term drama? Nah. Trump's got enough on his plate, like signing that crypto executive order to make the United States the, quote, world capital of crypto, as David Sachs, the crypto czar, puts it. Well, it's worth looking a little bit into the facts of what this document or executive order actually does, especially since a lot of people were looking for an actual established cryptocurrency strategic Bitcoin reserve. That is, it could have been a reserve that included other cryptocurrencies as well, such as Ethereum or Solana or otherwise, or at the very least just Bitcoin. But it did none of that. In fact, this cryptocurrency executive order, in my opinion, did very little. Here it is, fact sheet, executive order to establish the United States leadership in financial technology. I've got a couple screenshots here that I highlighted today. President Trump signed an EO to establish regulatory clarity, okay, for digital financial technology and secure America's position as the world's leader in digital asset technology. Okay, driving innovation, economic activity. Okay, first of all, let's just be clear here. By signing an executive order that says America is going to be the world's leader in crypto, we don't actually become the world's leader in crypto. We actually need clear regulation to do that. Now, he's already appointed somebody at the Securities and Exchange Commission, an interim chief, and we made a video on this yesterday, so I encourage you to watch it. Actually, it was 2 days ago. But anyway, just type into YouTube, Meet Kevin, cryptocurrency, game changer. That's the title of it. Anyway, that's where I broke down how you could end up having two classes of cryptocurrencies, ones that are regulated and registered and ones that are essentially unregulated and which will be deemed sort of like a black market cryptocurrency. And that could drive valuation differences given that some might have rug pull protections, the registered ones, versus others that maybe don't have rug pull protections or sort of like loophole protections, if you will. So different topic for a different video, but the point here is this executive order didn't really accomplish anything that they hadn't already talked about doing in the last couple days by having the SEC try to come up with regulatory guidelines. Well, that's, like I said in my last video, going to take over a year, in my opinion, to actually come up with some form of regulatory framework for broker-dealers and customers to actually be able to enjoy or reap the benefits of. This executive order doesn't exactly promote that, it just reiterates that. In fact, it literally says, this executive order establishes a presidential working group on digital markets to strengthen U.S. leadership. And they are going to work on developing a framework for governing digital assets. It's basically what they already did with the SEC, and including stablecoins, and evaluating the creation of a strategic national digital assets stockpile. Okay, so no direct mention of Bitcoin here, all digital assets included, and also no actual establishment of a strategic reserve, but rather the establishment of a task force that is going to evaluate the establishment of a strategic reserve. Darn it, Donald Trump did promise us the establishment of a digital Bitcoin reserve, at the very least promising not to sell seized cryptocurrency. But beyond that, we didn't really get anything other than we're not going to have CBDCs, and maybe some of the enforcement around cryptocurrency will be loosened. Now, what's a practical implication of this? Well, hopefully a practical implication is that when companies want to fundraise, like for example, Househack has its Regulation A fundraise coming up, along with launch of a pretty big new product slash service that we have coming, which is going to be really awesome. We have not wanted to include the ability to raise money through cryptocurrencies in our fundraises just because the SEC flags that, and you end up having significant regulatory hurdles, and then they basically delay your process even longer, and it just becomes almost impossible to raise money because it takes forever. It already takes long enough to do Regulation A. They're just very complicated. This is a non-accredited fundraise. Well, now, maybe after this executive order, it makes sense to throw in a mention of crypto and see if you can get approval more rapidly. I don't know how quickly the SEC is going to respond or adapt to an executive order like this, though, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. But practically, that could be one of the earliest changes that you end up seeing when it comes to digital assets. I think fundraising for private placement offerings will be one of those early places where, hey, you might see some real cool upside where finally people can fundraise using cryptocurrency through a regulated channel. That'll be pretty cool, especially if you could speed up the process. It already takes, like I said, long enough. Regulation A is probably like 3 to 4 months to file. You include crypto, it could be a year. So hopefully those sort of start merging. Now there's some more drama going on at DOGE, the Department of Governmental Efficiency, which is no longer technically the Department of Governmental Efficiency. It will actually now be considered the U.S. Department of Governmental Efficiency. And the reason that's different is because it is actually replacing an existing office that is already in existence in the Eisenhower building. It is called the U.S. Digital Service. Now, that historically has been a tech unit that provided consulting services to all of the various different departments throughout the government, specifically to help them keep their websites up and their cryptography, for encryption purposes or passwords or databases or whatever. That entire branch, basically, or department will be turned into DOGE. So, on top of that, every single government agency or department will be required to have a DOGE team of at least 4 employees to implement the DOGE agenda. So both of those things are pretty cool. And DOGE will be based in the Eisenhower building, just, a few blocks. Well, it's just a short walk, basically, from the White House. However, DOGE itself has a little bit of drama going on in that Bill McKinley, the person who was selected as originally to be part of Trump's cabinet, and then appointed to DOGE as chief legal counsel in December by Donald Trump, is going to be leaving to the private sector. He says, quote, "I'm in discussions regarding a number of private sector opportunities, and we'll have something to announce in the next couple of weeks. I support the president, J.D. Vance, and the great teams of the White House and across the administration 100%. This is interesting because, again, it is now the second person involved with DOGE, which initially I just thought was 2 people, but apparently you also had this attorney, is now the second person of 3, I guess, to disappear. So once again, you're just left with Elon. I think Elon wants his own department. Excuse me. And by the looks of it, he's getting it. And boy, you know what this cough reminds me of? This cough reminds me of something that we talked a lot about during the pandemic. And I just haven't been mentioning as much since the pandemic. But I thought I'd mention that if you want to get life insurance in as little as 5 minutes, you can go to metkevin.com/life. They're a sponsor of the channel, paid sponsor of the channel. It's the same life insurance that I use. They've co-branded with me. Go check them out, metkevin.com/life. You can get in as little as 5 minutes by going just simply to metkevin.com/life. It helps the channel out, helps us keep bringing the Meet Kevin reports to you, but also gets you life insurance you could sign up for in as little as 5 minutes. Now, a lot of people are like, hey, Kevin, but you're a pilot now. Does that mean you're disqualified from the policy that you've had since 2019? No. I read my policy, and as long as I didn't have intentions of being a pilot in 2019, which I definitely didn't. I didn't have intentions of being a pilot until like a month ago. It sort of just popped up. Then the policy stays active. And so my policy stays active for at least another 9 years, which is pretty awesome. So go check that out over at metkevin.com/life. That's the same policy that Lauren and I have for life insurance, metkevin.com/life. Okay, continuing on. Thanks for the cough there to remind us about our sponsored segment there. Let's jump on into the Stargate and not Josh Altman. See, now I'm confusing myself. Sam Altman drama. So remember the drama we talked about over the last few days, that Sam Altman and the people at Oracle and Microsoft and ARM that want to put together $100 billion in the first year and then up to $500 billion over the next 5 years to build out artificial intelligence infrastructure. Well, Sam Altman has always been seen as somebody who's wanted to build out his own chips even, but is now partnering with ARM and and Oracle and some of these other companies, Microsoft in part, to really build out AI infrastructure together and in partnership with all of these companies. And this is leading, frankly, Oracle to skyrocket about 16% over the last 5 days. Another stock that's really been moving well has been ARM stock. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. They were up about 15-16% yesterday. They did retrace 13.37, elite number, points today, about 7.43%. But some people look at it and go, oh, it could be a buy the dip opportunity, especially if companies like ARM end up moving not just from AI chips on mobile or server sides, but also into desktop PCs. Typically for desktops, you run Intel chips, which are your x86 architecture, but there are a lot of people now suggesting, hey, why don't we use ARM on PCs, which could open a whole new vertical for the ARM platform, which again is an architecture. It's the RISC-based architecture for essentially coding your processors. It is, after all, in part, what Apple has been using on their mobile devices, and a lot of folks say, hey, PCs, Windows PCs, might start using them on desktops. It could be a big game changer for ARM. Anyway, some of the drama that's going on over here is Donald Trump was asked bluntly, hey, you announced this partnership with this group, and all of a sudden, Elon Musk, who's so close to you, is arguing, hey, they don't have the money. Donald Trump's response to that is, well, these are very rich people. The people in this deal are very smart. Elon just hates one of them. Elon doesn't like one of those people, he says. He mentions both hate and doesn't like. It's kind of great to see Donald Trump stand up for Elon. He didn't really throw Elon under the bus saying Elon's wrong, but he also kind of slightly said Elon could be wrong because Elon just doesn't like them. So kind of an interesting POV there from Donald Trump. This is especially after Elon Musk has been kind of on a little bit of a tweet storm here, trying to bag on Sam Altman. He's pointed this out. Altman literally testified to Congress that he wouldn't get OpenAI compensation and now wants $10 billion. What a liar. He's also mentioned the following. I didn't actually post a copy of that tweet, but Elon has also been tweeting that Sam Altman and retweeting that Sam Altman. Oh yeah, no, I have the old tweets here. Oh yeah. Old tweets of Reid Hoffman's partnership with Sam Altman in trying to defeat Donald Trump, both in 2016 and in 2020. In donating money to Gavin Newsom or to Democratic initiatives to essentially defeat Donald Trump. In fact, here's Sam Altman in 2020, this was 2023, saying, super grateful for Reid's support, guidance, and friendship over the years. Look forward to much more in the future. Then you've got more here. Very few people realize how much Reid Hoffman did and spent to stop Trump from getting reelected. It seems reasonably likely to me that Trump would still be in office without his efforts. Thank you, Reid. And there was even one from 2016 where he was campaigning against Donald Trump. I didn't post that one. But here's some of the reactions that Sam Altman is putting out there. Just one more mean tweet, and then maybe you'll love yourself. This is clearly directed at Elon Musk. And then watching POTUS more carefully recently has really changed my perspective on him. I wish I had done more of my own thinking and definitely fell into the NPC trap. I'm not going to agree with him on everything, but I think he will be incredible for the country in many ways. This seems very convenient, the sort of like classic, okay, well, Donald Trump is in office now, so let's bend the knee to Donald Trump. And so you get the classic kind of reactions from people like Autism Capital, who says, you'll say whatever you have to say with the government ruling at the time. That's fine, but you don't have to pretend to like Trump. I mean, honestly, everybody's kind of bending the knee to Trump right now because he's in office. So, like, you kind of can't tell who's just a fair weather friend or who actually really likes Donald Trump. The reality is he's the president, so people are going to do whatever they need to do, get what they need to out of the office of the presidency. Whether you like Sam Altman or not, though, I don't know if it makes any difference. Elon Musk just clearly seems to not like them, and I think that was his whole motivation for coming up with Grok and trying to essentially buy as many NVIDIA chips as possible to outspend them and try to beat them at their own game. I don't know. I'm still kind of convinced that most of the chatbots have kind of hit a plateau in terms of like how far we're going to get. Like, we had a whole lot of growth, and now we've kind of plateaued with AI advancement. I'm not convinced that the AI is getting I sound old. Not that there's anything wrong with being old. I'm just saying I'm starting to age myself. I'm about to turn 33 here. Oh, old man alert. We joke about my son, whose name is Jay. He's turning a year soon. We joke that he's an old man because he's always hooing around like oh dear. He's Benjamin buttoning us. Anyway, in other news, Hegseth can afford to lose 3 votes. He's already lost 2 Republicans. People are calling them rhinos. That's Senator Collin and Murkowski. Collin cites the lack of experience that Hegseth has, and Murkowski points to Hegseth's character. If you want to see more on this, I made a full video on it. Just type into YouTube, Meet Kevin Hegseth. May have been one of the early Meet Kevin reports, but it should come up in the SEO, and I broke down everything on his hearing and sort of my opinions on him and otherwise. But look, he's probably going to get confirmed. He can afford to lose 3 seats. He's lost 2. He'll probably get confirmed. Boeing reported more of a loss, and it probably doesn't help that Elon Musk really hates Boeing as well. But I kind of think people didn't have high expectations for Boeing doing well after earnings anyway, so they're only down 2% in after hours. Big deal. Donald Trump did have an address at Davos as well earlier today. We made a separate video on that, so I'll just give you a very quick roundup on this. Donald Trump basically said that the war in Ukraine might not end until oil prices come down, which some people were confused why oil prices had anything to do with it. The connection to this is because Russia funds their war through oil prices. So if oil prices are lower, then maybe they would not be as able to continue to fund the war. There's now talk that Donald Trump may end up trying to work with China to try to end this war as soon as possible so that people can stop dying. Donald Trump is also demanding NATO countries invest up to 5% in defense, up from 2%, and he's looking to bring down corporate taxes to 15%, as long as Democrats work with him on extending tax deductions, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, and ultimately they end up getting the Trump policies that they desire through. So we'll see, but a little bit of finger pointing there. Philadelphia Fed says the number of individuals making their minimum payments is starting to rise to some of the highest levels that we have seen since the pandemic on their credit cards. Some say this is a potential early sign of some stress in the economy. Ooh. In other news, you can no longer download TikTok on your iPhone. So apparently now iPhones with TikTok installed have gone up in value. Apparently some people are trying to sell their iPhones for about $1,000 on eBay with TikTok installed. And GameStop says if you want to resell your phone, please do it through GameStop. Donald Trump has also signed an executive order to order for agencies to, quote, come up with a plan, present a plan within 15 days, I have it right here, on how to release the declassification of records related to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Martin Luther King Jr. These are expected to be a pretty big deal, and we'll see what documents actually come out, if any. Maybe they'll just be documents full of a bunch of black highlighter, as we like to say, where everything is redacted. Anyway, Donald Trump's birthright citizenship executive order, or end to birthright citizenship executive order, has already been blocked by a Seattle judge, ruling that the order is temporarily restrained via a TRO, temporary restraining order, until it can be fully reviewed by courts on the grounds of constitutionality as mandated by the 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state where they reside. JP Morgan breaks down retail holdings. JP Morgan says retail traders have bought sentiment in cash equities, or brought sentiment in cash equities to local highs this past week, with specifically money flowing into cryptocurrencies and tech-based, cryptocurrencies. Let me just show the picture here. I'm messing myself up. Retail traders had buying sentiment in cash equities reaching the local highs this past week. 2.3 standard deviations above their 12-month average. Half of the inflows went to ETFs, with cryptocurrency ETFs receiving above average demand. Wow, there, I could speak a little bit more clearly there. On the other hand, you did see some selling in the triple QQQ. On single stocks, you also saw movement into SoFi, Goldman Sachs, and Netflix. However, Tesla continued to be sold, maybe because of that EV, some of that EV frustration there on the potential EV mandate going away. Selling in the options space, retail net sold 4.3 billion of Delta and 11 billion of Gamma. Calls selling in the S&P and NASDAQ dominated the flow. In other words, buying long-dated puts while selling short-dated ones. So a little bit of hedging there. Institutionals actually net sold 10.5 billion. And if you were looking for where the most call option buying was, or at least delta buying, so I guess theoretically could also be put buying, Tesla, AVGO, Microsoft, Meta, and the S&P 500. When you have an imbalance over here in terms of buying, biggest imbalance was for buying pressure was NVIDIA, AMD, Amazon, Palantir, Meta, Netflix, MicroStrategy, Micron, SoFi, and Goldman. Notice Tesla's not on that list because it was part of the selling group. And the Marketeer put together a pretty nice set of charts here. They basically said retail buying sentiment has reached an all-time high after the inauguration. They argue that people might be late to the party with the S&P 500 and NASDAQ somewhat range-bound, and this could potentially be an undesirable time to actually enter purchase trades. Interesting. Los Angeles was approved for $2.5 billion in relief funding from the state of California to remove hazards, provide shelter, and emergency response. Donald Trump is also coming to California tomorrow afternoon. I noticed a temporary flight restriction around LAX, Altadena area, from 0 to about 18,000 feet, so Class A. 2 p.m. tomorrow for a few hours. On micro, not too much on micro today. We just have that Nikola is potentially running out of cash, enough money to get through Q1, and that's it. And then they might be exploring a sale. Next catalyst to pay attention to tomorrow, S&P manufacturing and services PMIs in the morning. U of M sentiment and expectations for inflation tomorrow as well. FOMC rate decision on Wednesday of next week. Obviously expect no movement there. Tomorrow we will be getting American Express. On the 27th, SoFi. On the 28th, we'll be getting Bank of America, General Motors. We'll be getting JetBlue, Starbucks, Logitech. On the 29th, so Wednesday, we'll be getting ASML, T-Mobile, Tesla, Meta, Microsoft, IBM, Western Digital Corp, Whirlpool. So a lot of earnings really starting to come. Next week, we'll also get UPS on those critical earnings series coming up. That's going to be a big one. Apple's next week as well, next Thursday. So stay tuned for those. Okay, now we got to do the dad joke. Dad joke. I'll tell you the dad joke at the end. I'll get you started with it, though. What did the cannibal choose as his last meal? I'll let you think about it while I give you the daily wealth update. I wrote this morning in the email. If you haven't gotten these emails yet, go to meetkevin.com to get them. I wrote this morning, extra sleep is awesome. It feels good to wake up without an early alarm clock, but the downside often comes with, oops, I'm in a rush for work now. I'm in a rush to school now. I'm in a rush with the kids now. I can't get any catch up done. I'm not getting any studying, bills, or whatever you're working on done. The flip side is there is an annoyance of waking up slightly earlier than your competition, but you get the upside of taking control of your day, feeling empowered by checking off your to-dos early, and feeling like you are ahead of the game rather than playing reaction mode. It always feels good when you can text a client or email a client and go, hey, you might be thinking about this, just a heads up. I've already got this answer for you. Here's how I'm already working on it. It feels terrible to get that message from a client going, hey, what's the status on this? How come I haven't heard from you? So the more you can follow up, the better. And it doesn't mean you have to wake up at 3:45 in the morning like your boy Kevin. I should really change that to 3:43 in honor of the studios that worked on Halo. I'm actually going to do that starting tonight. But if you're used to waking up at 7:30 for your 8 a.m. job, you're going to find a lot has happened already in the world, and you're going to be on your back foot. You're going to be unorganized a lot longer. So how to solve this? Wake up about 35 minutes earlier than usual, ideally 5 minutes before the next hour comes up. So use 6:55 in this example, and it'll make you feel 10x more productive and enthusiastic. So, what did the cannibal choose as his last meal? Five Guys.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.